The morning, I ended up waking up at 8 a.m. and I did not have enough time to reach school ultra early, so I prepared my cauliflower waffles and oatmeal to eat shortly after a pretty hot shower that I had. And it was pretty great. The hot shower that I used, I only stayed about like 4 to 5 minutes because I had to hurry up. Approximately 9:12 a.m. I left for school, and before that, I had to dry my clothes since I was not drying them yesterday, and I also slept pretty late. I complained my mom wouldn't be taking me on time to school, but thankfully, I made it to school around 9:23 a.m. right on time. And what I was doing yesterday is that I was just doom scrolling on Amazon because I needed to buy a specific thing. But nonetheless, I'm okay, guys. Thanks. But going down to period one Spanish, where there's a lot of people, and it was very much crowded like an NYC crowd, but there's lots of talk, but I managed to make it to class on time. I said ciao, and she asked how our week was. The class was tired, but we answered 10 verbs in Spanish, and such as poner to volver, and I wrote the Italian equivalents for study. Other examples that I had were venir, venire. For regulars too, I also had salir, tener, traer, venir, along with salire with Italian equivalents. And I also pronounced one per question, saying vengo, as a teacher asked for points. We pronounced numbers in class too, once we were given a worksheet, and I answered, instead of saying like the number literally or saying the number like se escribe for all 10 times, I put different styles from Italian to Spanish. I said tipico and then the number. Or I would say quiero darte este números, however numbers that I would have said then. So I did that little bit of style, but I barely finished this because I used so much variety. So I got more time to do it, and with that extra 5 minutes, I had to decide whether to raise my hand or finish them. So I just finished on time. Before I could get picked for an answer that I did not answer yet, she picked for me 811. But I confused the number with 12 in Spanish, so I got a bit scared as I corrected. But I was like micro scared for like zero point 0.2 seconds in front of the entire class. But later, she announced today's rally periods are far shorter, and it's going to make this entire period even shorter too. So for second period, she tells us we'll find out if we're going to first or second rally, and whatever it is. And it was mostly silence in class. But we collected our phones later since it was pretty short. We didn't have much talk either. Jude's my side was mostly quiet. I know for this class I might have to practice Italian more and catch up on a few tenses, especially since next week we will be doing an introductory presentation, as she said. But the class itself during that Spanish time was mostly quiet. People were attentive, and I know a few people were here and there. But for English today, it was less crowded as I came, and I told my teacher if we have a first or second rally, she said second rally. In the board, it announced the attendance rolls and the Safe Schools presentation that's done every year. I thought I'd forgotten my phone, but I already put it in the cat seat. And a funny story about safe schools is that there was this legend about some question that was a kid who's bad and who's late all the time, and then gets suspended. But the answer was incorrectly input as he gets suspended and receives student of the month. The teacher eventually told us this legend about it and how an admin got the answer wrong, and how this eventually forced versions of the safe schools presentations to reform constantly across different websites and also across different checks by people too. Over PA, there was an announcement that interrupted this, saying that first rally would eventually go soon. We were not first rally, so we did not go. For the teacher, she said admins also had issues with the presentation releases because she said that if we don't do it, admins will apparently pull the person who did not do it and do a physical presentation about it, like on stuff. But she said that since there is a big issue that is going on, we're trying to convert the Safe Schools presentation into another format, such as Google quizzes or Google or Canvas quizzes. We might have to do it again just as another check. I know this presentation is very much important legally and paper too, as bureaucratically as it is, but I know the specific format of the presentation not everyone would have as an easy job because it's on the Chromebook for audio and visual, but thankfully there are captions to listen to. What was announced were the rules, regulations, campus safety that keeps everyone safe, no foodstuffs, no deliveries, and I think a twist of the high school was that someone said, "We are a part of this amazing family." I've witnessed much deeper stories than an amazing family before. Think of family drama or something, or K-pop drama. But the next was dress code, and I agree on this part in terms of modesty because cultural standards are different. I think the goal here is to remain in modest clothing, although people can still debate the specifics. But going to period two, in specifics, so the code was set to remove harmful influences in terms of the dress code. I'd ask what would constitute harmful influences for the dress code beyond obvious stuff like don't wear gang stuff, don't wear none of these. Like I wonder what else, like ideologically speaking, what would not constitute it, I would say. But nonetheless, I still remain in agreement. But for dress standards, it was also no revealing stuff, as we say, no loose clothes, and for belongings, they mentioned no gang stuff, no drug mentions, no explicit imagery, don't do anything. In the quiz, there were also a few AV and technical issues because one question failed to load up as a result into Canvas, and there was another one that did not fix itself. Next was an academic accountability, and of course, the capacity practically means don't come late, no absences, and don't use AI, and don't break the rules. It's basically a bureaucratic saying, don't break the rules. Next section was this time no illegal guns, no toy guns, no sprays, no dangerous objects to bring to school. And I had interest in the legalities because apparently the school here said, the district said that searches can be done on student cars, but I wonder what the legal liability of this is because, yeah, I do get that dogs search backpacks a lot of times here and there, but when it comes to cars, like, what if a car that is unlocked? How would security search that? What's the legal liability behind that, especially for that? That's the thing that I'm also wondering too. What about how do they check vehicles if there's no if it's unlocked? I wonder, like, what's the legal reality of saying this? Like, I get, like, the Safe Schools presentation, like, they say that we can search cars. Like, what are the legal boundaries that we cannot pass? what I'm making wonder of. What if they suspect something is in the car? Can they unlock it? Or that's the legal things I'm curious about. Something that Law by Mike would answer. So, yes, not to be analyzing the policies with as much eye as it is, but I do see no quarrel with any of those things. Beyond a few specific questions that I would like to speak about later on, but I do highlight some problems with the quiz because the interface itself is easy to go through, much easier than last time. However, it keeps on glitching, and there is a few problems with the AV stuff, and sometimes the YouTube audio doesn't load at all. So, anyways, going to the rally before period 3 next. This time it went pretty fast, and I did not realize that period 2 ended at 11 a.m. sharp, so I had to get ready fast, and even the teacher said we might have to redo a few things from today. The rally was pretty loud as I moved across doors, where juniors and seniors and freshmen and sophomores have their own unique site to enter from the gym, and I entered via the junior side. And I introduced myself to some of the ASB members, but it was too fast. I managed to reach a seat too, and I got ready to pitch to a group, but I said hi to the people along the way as I made my way forward. So this rally is a sort of the beginning of the year rally and academic side that the rally announcement made. Next was some sort of basketball dance and a metaphor for captainship, saying that we are sailing through the year. Let's get ready for the cast test. A lot of the kids laughed off the metaphor really hardly because it is repetitive. It's been being used since the last year, so I think it was a little bit humorous, but I still appreciate the production value, to be honest. Like, it's a whole elaborate ASB video that I do admire for its value, but also gives its own stock humor in terms of its acting. The immediate environment, though, it was a little difficult to pitch to random people because there's a lot of people around me, and it's also a very loud environment. To hold a conversation here would be the most challenging because, of course, even then the school also named the rival, and apparently that will get better, making the environment even louder than it is. But the rivalry between my school and other schools around each other is basically everyone thinking that they're better than the other. It's like Colorado Rockies versus the Diamondbacks. And in terms of our school's academic rivalry, geopolitically, we are very much near them. So we always want to be competing with them, even though we still know nothing about each other in terms of like the school student body like mixing. But with the surrounding ones paramount in terms of a debate of who's better in contemporary society within these school walls before people move on. The rally was mostly loud until a random girl with a mobile piano started singing, and it only increased louder with the audience as this was a mellow type of music, but something that people enjoyed. Next part two was more of cheer side with acrobatics over some hope overhyped music. I also saw Marcos too, who was in the background, who also helped heavily for the other side. I also observed the school band too at the end at the regiment, and I noticed how multiple coordinators from Chiefs ASB adults also helped to lead this. So it was very elaborate, but I found it typical of the fairs when it comes to rallies. But I tried to send a conversation in this time to like to random boys near me and the girl, but mostly everyone was just zooming out or just mostly in it. So I tried to pitch a few times, but I asked the girl near me what she thinks about it, and so the guys too, but they were made mostly vague and said that it was loud. After the band thing, they made their performance, and the teachers announced the gym thing on both sides, where we say something that relates to school pride, and then the other side of the gym says it too, and just repeating it over and over again. And later on, eventually, cheer also made a few announcements too, but eventually they had to end and transition. Later, the announcer said we had to go because, well, we obviously ran out of time. I tried a slider ball here, trying to ask if they have Instagram. Maybe if I failed at this point, maybe I could talk to these people and have a conversation with them later on. Sadly, they said no, so here that goes. For period 3, today the teacher announced the day of the required diagnostic on peer assessment and said that not everyone liked the rally, but we should appreciate the effort that they did anyway. For peer assessment, we are to log into the computer and finish up the diagnostic and turn in the ready, set, go assignment that we have. I had a struggle because I completely forgot how to solve quadratic equations. I get the b squared minus 4ac part, but I'm not sure what we're dividing from, so that kind of sucks for me, but I did not finish my work for that diagnostic, but he said it's okay because it's only a review of what we know. It was chill. He eventually left us to be, and it was a lot of chill music, kind of like a lo-fi style video that I was like, I'm not sure what type of music he was playing. I reached science class on this time and it was a little crowded later on, and she said for the teacher she didn't even take roll, so I got marked late. So she said she'll hand me an attendance sheet later on that she says she needs to sign to send to the office first because I was accidentally marked absent yesterday for period 4. She said she didn't know, so even then she held another problem that the admins wanted us to upload pictures for the class online and for the syllabus, so we still had to redo that too. After a bit, we continued on notes, learning about the frontier era and illusions such as medical and new technologies eventually came to be. The teacher was very eccentric, and we learned about Dr. John Snow and his new findings. We also learned about Yellowstone and its history in 1872, and how it changed contemporary views of reformation and eventually created systems today that keep every one of us clean. We learned about the era of reform and how one man in the early 1900s, after taking notes on meat processors and how unclean it was, eventually forced reforms and a cleaner place. And the class was mostly talkative, but notes ended earlier since this was a pretty short period. The boys around me were just talking about life in general, and I also heard that during this period, the teacher said that when there was no clean beings back then, if a rat fell into a meat grinder, they'll probably ended up being meat too. So it was pretty interesting to know. But today, before I went to lunch and before I eventually left, I remember yesterday I was falsely marked absent for 4th period in the metaphor terms. So this time, using my own ABS challenge system, I contested my absence to the office in front of the school, and I used the metaphorical ABS challenge system. And basically, I'm saying like this was not a strike, this is a ball, and it's mistaken as an absence when in fact it's supposed to be presence, or I'm supposed to be present. In this metaphor, Adrian is currently challenging the pitch by ATO, attendance office. Call should be overturned was a ball, not a strike. I went to the office and they redirected me multiple times back and forth, but eventually they gave me a slip to hand to the teacher. And eventually, once I walked back to class during lunch, I entered via the storeroom and I sent it to the teachers. Although another teacher stopped me from going further. My teacher got it and they asked me to leave. especially with the other one too, because navigating the storeroom was quite a challenge, and they said that I should not be entering the classroom via the storeroom, but enter through a different place. But I don't know where their classroom leads to, so that's the only place that I know. But anyways, though, they did tell me to leave. One of the women teachers were very adamant that I go, so eventually I found the exit door and I exited gracefully, even though I was confused on where to go first, but I still didn't want to make them mad. But thankfully, I left gracefully. Back to lunch period. I broke my fear fully and I entered a six girlfriend group. Credit to you guys. I didn't do much other than a few, and I did my two basic fastballs of like, may I sit, how are you? And another simple two-seamer. I don't like the wind much because my lips get dry. And for the most of the time, I mean, I was dry in conversation and I sat mostly quiet. But I am glad though because eventually I desensitized myself to my own fear. But I was afraid at the end. I mean, I was shy going up to them, I'll be honest. But I pushed forward and I took the incentive to keep going. Daily stuff was mostly about media, passing time, and some other things that I don't remember, and some other things I cannot reveal to protect their groups, well, identities, so to speak. But the weather was mostly hot, but we were shaded, thankfully, under a table, and I liked their presence. And I was hesitant, but I felt more relaxed in this case compared to other larger groups. But one thing that I do need to improve, like last Friday, is that as they were like watching a video, I delivered one of my basic stuff, fastballs, like "How's your day, guys?" But I delivered it while they were busy watching a video, so I do need to refine my social etiquette right there a little bit more, but that was pretty interesting, though I did not mean to send it in that manner. But anyways, though, I did talk about life vlogging, and I wanted to pitch this time a four-seamer. Like this one, I had trouble like saying like, can I mention you guys later on? So I've had that trouble before with other people. So this time I had to make sure to transition this time smoothly and just and ask if I can mention them in a way we'll understand. Because one time back in the library in my county, I told you guys in this past video is that I asked two girls in the library then if I could mention them on Instagram. They thought the mentioning was like, this is a big mention. They're gonna get mentioned online. Like this is actually going to. But usually my mentions are just brief mentions about the lunch break and what happened. It's not like something totally big. Like this is a new project that's coming on. So no, I did talk about life vlogging because I wanted to pitch a metaphorical four-seamer to them and ask them politely if I can briefly mention them online. And they implied yes, but they said keep it quote unquote mysterious. So then I kept it that way. So I did keep their names mysterious because I literally do not know their Instagrams at all. But I was shy eventually, but I eventually spoke from that a little bit after. But I know I do need to improve on my pitches because I'm barely doing any fastballs. But again, though, they do have like strict context, guys. Like I've been saying to everybody is that trying to do the so cold approaches on like every single group that we visit, there are challenges, but there are also positives at that same time. So it is good. But I knew that my presence sort of altered the dynamic there a little bit because well, I could have visited a different group that I've already known like 100 times before. But we're going out there because we want to meet new people. We want to keep on going. At least for this time. But nonetheless, as a highlight later on, well, I broke my own social fear. I did not fester in myself. But for this one today, I'm low-key kind of curious to see how they'd react internally because usual vlogging videos, at least when I was talking to them, and personal videos are seen from as it stuff, and most are seen as public depending on who decides to review who. But my definition of pub vlogging videos sometimes differs depending on the topic that I'm talking about. But sometimes, such as these vlogs, I add along the day itself and I upload it online as its own newspaper reel of my entire day. Probably wouldn't know me or find me in this Instagram unless someone shares or spreads this video community, I guess, and they somehow see this among hundreds of other jumbled contexts here. So I don't know, if you guys do find me, hello. But if it does occur, if you guys are curious or want a specific hyper detail removed from this, please DM me directly. Thank you. Today in history, we finished our comparison of English and Spanish colonies, defining what colonial imperialism was, as asked by the teacher. She read a few articles to us, and I did one part too. She left us to do the rest on how the English handled colonies and other people who were native to the given land. We read the notes, but we had no bowel work today, and that was a little bit difficult because I was also freestyle writing, as I always bring my papers with me. So I was hurrying up to finish up this writing as much as I need to finish up on the other work. So eventually, I finished up on that freestyle writing, and I eventually got straight down into that a Spanish colonies worksheet, and I got it done. Although I do say my answers were a little bit fake, but most of the time the class was attentive, and I think everyone got their stamps too by the teacher. I also told the teacher to recheck an assignment because I got a zero on it. It was late, so in metaphor again, I used my social ABS challenge. So we're again the picture, and she said that she'll review it. Six, today is our first introduction to SolidWorks, and he said that he'll be putting Classroom Manager to show us how to do it. So on the Chromebook, computers, he put it all over our screens, and he told us a tutorial on how to do it. And someone in period six, as I said, as the teacher was tutorialing everything, he said, "Everyone ready?" I think Diesel said this one. Diesel said nine. So the class ended up laughing pretty hard. I was laughing too. But the funny part was that for the first layer, though, I think after for the tutorial, it was a little bit of a struggle because there was a lot of specific steps. And I struggled on knowing some specifics on how to do it, especially when going from layer one, layer two to layer three. Someone asked if it's due today jokingly. He said no. Then he said that if we still don't get it, he's going to send a 7-minute video on Canvas just to for us to watch over the weekend in case we still need help. And to be honest, I myself struggled on trying to get this correctly. Like I got the part on how to expand the given shape and use layer one, but I struggled on how to get a few other basics down. I struggled on how to properly zoom in, and I struggled on specifically to map the cube from its one from this angle to the other angle.